Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Blitz Racing Network. Tonight, it is the Twigi iRacing series as we are down to the final 5 races of the regular season before we get to playoff racing action where the top 10 drivers will battle out to see who can get the championship done this season. But for tonight, we go for the long distance at the Tricky Triangle, Pocono, our destination for round number 13 for that of the mountains, Pocono Mountains 112 tonight. This track is going to be a handful for all these drivers. You've got the super stretch, you got the short shoot, you got tunnel turn. You've got so many aspects to handle, and instead of 4 corners, it's only 3 turns to handle for themselves. These drivers certainly excited for tonight. One of the biggest fields we're expecting to see. There's about 17 drivers in line preparing for tonight, as it is going to be a fun one. Now, myself, Sam Dyer, going to be giving you the coverage here. Usually we have that of Robert Anderson going to be in the background working with me, but instead pulling double duty tonight. It's going to be Matt Dyer running, also producing and commentating. And Matt, tonight these drivers, they're 20 seconds away from practice, but Pocono is our destination here this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be pretty fun. It should be pretty tight. This course allows people to drive relatively close, and that draft does allow people to pull up to you and potentially dive bomb for a potential overtake. There are really your main spots to really try to get an overtake done is going to be down into turn one. It is a bit of a heavier braking zone, so I expect there to be some overtakes going into turn one.
All 3 corners, all from that of various different tracks, well, imitated from very different tracks. Turn one, going to be modeled after that of the Trenton Speedway. Banking of 14 degrees for that of turn one. Then turn two is going to be imitated, otherwise known as the tunnel turn off the Indianapolis Speedway corners. And then the third corner, going to be only 6 degrees of banking, and it's modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. 3 extremely different tracks, corners based off of 3 extremely different tracks. And these drivers are going to have to pick and choose where they want to practice and how this setup is going to help them here this evening. As drivers are done with practice, it's time for qualifying. It's 5 minutes for time, but only 2 laps to count on which driver will have the fastest lap and get that pole position and best track position for themselves. And Matt, as the drivers are getting themselves situated, as here's going to be that of John Buwalda Jr. going to be on track for the 71. What are some big things about this track and his track position going to be one of the biggest factors here for qualifying?
Well, the first thing you're really going to look for is turn one. There's a bump on going in down to the corner. If you hit that wrong, you're going to lose so much time in turn one. So really, you have to either enter very high and try to get a apex to carry the speed down into turn two, or do you give up a little bit and get as low as you can as soon as you can in turn one to avoid that bump. But another potential spot that I see that could be really tricky is going to be coming off two. It's very inviting to carry a lot of speed through the corner, but if you carry too much, that wall on the exit catches you very out quickly.
Outside wall going to be so dangerous for a lot of these drivers. Also on the exit of turn three, see a lot of drivers getting loose or slamming the outside wall. As going through turns two is John Buwalda. This is lap number one for the majority of the drivers out here on track that are getting themselves set up. As the 71 expected to put down one of our first laps of this evening, be the tone center. How fast will the 71 be? And for that of Buwalda, certainly a driver that we're not expecting great things from the 71. Just a solid night for himself from practice. Was one of the drivers in the bottom half of the field. But here for qualifying, it's going to be a 56.116 for that of the 71. But immediately taken over as Patrick Hernandez in the 19. His first lap going to be almost that of 2 tenths faster than Buwalda.
Yeah, one of the things I was looking that I saw in practice as well as how quickly Elliott Drummond was, so I expect him to be potentially on the front row.
And as well, another driver to watch out for this, the 91 of Merrick Watchhorn. We saw Drummond and Watchhorn to be 2 drivers that have been dueling it back and forth. You think back to the Nashville Superspeedway race, they were right on top of one another. It was Merrick Watchhorn that got the advantage, as well as winning last week and being the most winningest driver. 6 wins in total for this 91 team. He's trying to get his 7th potentially here and try to win half of the races for the regular season. He certainly is looking on track to do so, but a driver that's going to try to steal this away, it's Sam Brochu, who's going to be another driver who looks to be quick and a surprise driver to watch out for. He was decently fast last week, but came up with a lot of issues for himself. But Matt, we've watched in these last couple of weeks, Brochu, when he does show up, he certainly is a driver going for a top five finish.
Yeah, absolutely. He was always there near the front. Even when he dropped back to the back of the pack last race, he still was able to fight his way and ended up with up there towards the front.
As you see, that is Sam Brochu going to be trying to get down to that yellow line, truly trying to carry as much speed as possible, throwing it up to the outside wall. But this straightaway, so long and daunting. And Matt, another factor I think for these drivers, once we get to green flag racing, the focus level for these drivers, these long straightaways, I would imagine you can get a little unfocused at times with how long you're going straight.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost lulls you to sleep as you're going down these long stretches, and then the corner almost kind of catches you off guard. But I know for me sometimes too is I sometimes forget if I'm going into turn one or two just how long these straightaways are and how similar they are. So it's one thing to look out for to see how these guys like really attack each corner.
As see this 31, that is actually finishing up his qualifying time. That was Waylon Vining, and Vining needing a good day today for the 31 machine comes in 11th in points. Just was pushed out of our top 10 last week. So Vining needs a top 10, if not a top 8 run for the 31. He'll be qualified 11th currently, as seen a couple of other drivers hitting the track, seeing how fast they can be. This is going to be Michael in the in that of the 007 doing his job to try to get up front, and a couple of these drivers making their debut races. This has been the kind of the joy of us up in the booth, is seeing week in and week out new drivers emerging and testing out how the Twigi iRacing series is going to be running, but not enough time for the 007. He will not be able to find himself to finish that lap as qualifying is over. The drivers are getting set. 18 drivers, our biggest field of the season, and this is going to be interesting on how these drivers survive as we're getting lined up and ready to go. Matt, this is certainly for all these drivers 45 laps. It's kind of a short Pocono race compared to what we've seen in other leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it stays green the whole way, you could potentially one stop this, but this could even be a two stop race. But it really depends if you're like really nail out your strategy.
Can you save the fuel or can you not? As we take a look at how the drivers are going to be lined up here from qualifying. Your starting results, pole award going to be going to that of Elliot Drummond with Sam Brochu in the 25 to his outside for row number 1. Row 2 going to be seeing newcomers. That is going to be Blake Sassler as well as that of Ellis Wells going to be in the 57 for row number 2. Row 3 going to be that of Brennan Gregg as well as Ryan Mitchell in the 24. Row number 4 is going to find us with that of Jacob Elkins as well as Patrick Hernandez. Going to be in that 19 for that of row number 4. Row 5 finds our most winningest driver of the season and our points leader, Merrick Watchhorn, in the 91, with that of John Bualda going to be to his outside for the 71. Then for row number 6 is where we find that of Waylon Vining as well as that of Chris Bridensbaker, going to be the 42. And then we fall back for the last couple of rows. That's where we're going to be finding ourselves with drivers going to be that of newcomers, of that of Joshua Siegfried, as well as Michael Dana in that going to be in the final back rows, with that of Brennan Carroll, as well as Mark Welber and Riley Marabello, as well as Ryan Heights, going to be the 75. Those are your 9 rows for these drivers that they're going to be having for themselves. Congratulations to all 18 drivers going to be racing here tonight, but a little bit of issues for one of our drivers. That's going to be one of our fastest drivers up front. That's Sam Brochu, and also going to be Ellis Wells. Looking like for Wells, going to be having a little bit of blinking issues, but Sam Brochu missing out on the starting grid. As drivers have indicated lag out for Sam Brochu, but Matt, still 17 drivers hitting the grid. Looks like a pretty good field that we're expecting to see here, but you were throwing out the fact that we were expecting this race, if we stay green, for a one stop. What is that pit window looking like for these drivers?
Yeah, if your pit window is pretty much going to be around 21 to potentially maybe 24 if you can stretch it out that far. So it's right on the cuffs of making it like on a one stop.
And you make it halfway. That is going to be the key. 45 laps here at Pocono. One fast repair for themselves. Four extra sets of tires in pit road if needed. But it's time to see, can the drivers handle the tricky triangle? The Pocono Mountains 112 is green here for the Twiggy's iRacing Series. Round number 13 as they head down into turn number one. Already starting to see some drivers think about three wide, some still saying two wide, but it's getting a little hectic in the middle of the field. But up front, it's going to be Elliott Drummond as well as Ellis Wells. Going to be side by side, but it's Elliott Drummond taking the lead for the 29.
Absolutely, a really good launch by him too to clear out the pack and just let them race and just try to stretch out his legs.
Getting a little bit comfortable, but how will the 24 Ryan Mitchell be running? Again, the 24 Ryan Mitchell caught up with other issues with himself in Ryan Heights last week. That caused a big calamity or lost a lot of time. And for this 24, hoping for a lot more space. But he's going to be having some heavy contenders behind him. Patrick Hernandez, also Sesser, is going to be right on their back bumper in the 23. Coming with head of steam through turn three. Lap number one goes to the ad of Elliott Drummond. But Matt, this pack certainly closed in, and in the back, watching this group, watching the bump drafting, it's Merrick Watchorn who was tempted to go three wide and otherwise decides to follow in suit with the 23.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just saw Hernandez just push Ryan Mitchell. That's going to be a huge thing. Like if you can work with someone, you're going to make up a lot of ground too, just by able to bump drafting down the stretch. Oh,
Gonna
we
be
see a contact.
oh, gonna be spun around, and that's our first yellow. Patrick Hernandez is well gonna be involved. Then driver is able to scoot on by past the 23. And Sasser in that of Blake Sasser in the 23 and Patrick Hernandez. Tried to bump draft on the front stretch, but on the exit of turn two, became enemies very quickly there for a quick moment. As we get the replay set up for these drivers, there was so much helpful pushing going on, but the drivers certainly were trying to get everything they can. But Matt, as we're looking at this replay, I mean, they were trying to work with one another. It just backfired so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you almost wonder like what exactly happened, but as we get to see this coming off the corner, and it just seems like Hernandez just got a little bit loose and just had no, essentially, he had nowhere to go.
Trying to stay off the outside wall, but in doing so, came down slamming into the 23 of Blake Sasser. And oh boy, Matt, we're still watching the replay, but live scoring right now. The 23, he was hoping he could travel around and then make it into pit road. Engine blew right when he came across the right past pit road entry. Not able to coast all the way around this 2.5 mile course. 23 had to take a tow.
That was just unfortunate. I was, yeah, a really good start, and I was really, had high hopes for him, but it's just unfortunate.
Qualified second, and now is going to be mired back at least a lap or more down for the 23, especially because since he was on the front stretch, had to take the tow. That is going to be getting him extended more time on waiting. Luckily for that Blake, pace laps, they're around almost 3 minutes in length because of how large this track is. Only three corners, but 2.5 miles in length. That's a long race. And for a lot of these drivers, they recognize the draft going to be so helpful for themselves, but also these three corners, each one of them has their own different types of threats. But now the question, who decides to come into pit road and maybe top off on fuel with just running 2 laps of green flag racing?
Yeah, I think with this early caution, as we do see, Riley making it really essentially, it's only really the people in the back who don't really have a lot to lose. Just top off, make it a little bit easier for you on strategy wise.
With this, also pacing going to be helping with strategy to try to make it to that halfway marker, but topping off with fuel, helping drastically. And as we're looking at as I'm looking at some of the drivers that just entered pit road, there's a couple of them with the heavy damage. That Mark Welber had some rear end damage, going to have to use a fast repair for the 64. When the 23 finally gets out of their tow, they're going to use a fast repair, as well as Patrick Hernandez deciding to use a fast repair. That's three out of our 17 drivers having to use a fast repair. That means we are down to just 14 that still have that safety net to work with for these final, what should be 40 laps once we go green.
Yeah, I think with it being this early, You kind of just have to hold on to it and just kind of live with the damage until later on in the race when it really matters.
Also talked about the fact that this race is race number 5 of the 5 races to go, excuse me, of the rest of the regular season. We got tonight at Pocono. Darlington's going to be next week on the 8th of July. 15th of July is going to be at Watkins Glen. The 29th is going to be at that of North Wilkesboro short track racing. That's going to be a dangerous race for a lot of these drivers. And then the last race of the regular season going to be August 5th at Daytona, 50 laps. That is going to be certainly a race where these drivers are going to be scrapping for every point possible. The potential chance of a win in your in system to make it into the playoffs. These drivers all searching for it, especially on the fact that we've only had just that of 4 winners this season. Going to be Merrick Watchorn with 6 wins, Sam Brochu with 3, John Lynch with 1, and Kevin White Jr. with 1 win for himself. But Kevin White Jr., he's only showed up for that one race that he won for and hasn't shown up for another one. That one win was back at the Bristol Dirt event. So I think for a lot of these drivers, recognizing the playoffs are still wide open to be grabbed, especially for anyone that's in that 6th place position back to all the way to that of 11th to 12th in points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just look at the point standings, and Patrick Hernandez and Merrick have just really just shown that they are really the class of the field that have just separated themselves. I think it's really just going to come down to those two and who can be the most consistent in the in the playoffs.
And then also Ryan Mitchell going to be 78 points off of our points leader. But the big thing that's helping Patrick Hernandez, he's made it to every single one of these races. Well, the rest of the field, for that of Watchorn and Mitchell, they've missed one race. The rest of the field, they've only made either 6 or less races. And you fall all the way back to that of 12th in points. Those drivers have only made 3 races this season. Like I said, each and every week we start to see newcomers blossoming in. That's great to see for a league, but that is going to make it to where if you're one of those drivers that's just inside of the points, you are feeling comfortable because you've made at least 1 or more races than the other drivers behind you, even though your performance might not be as strong as what they were.
Yeah, so like you just look when we first took over this league. I want to say there was only 7 drivers that showed up for the week. So just to see them grow, like 10 plus people in the last few weeks is has been absolutely amazing.
It's been a pleasure to see them grow. And as well, want to give an update. Sam Brochu, who missed the start of this race, is trying to get reconnected in, but will be that of 5 or more laps down. So he's going to need a couple of more cautions to come out, get back into the mix of racing here. And also the 23 of Blake Salser has gotten back out on track. Currently only 1 lap down for the 23. So if we get a quick caution, he'll be back on the lead lap. But for the rest of the field, the green flag waves. We are ready to go racing once more for the Pocono Mountains 112. And Elliott Drummond, like a rocket ship, already going to be having over that of a 3 truck length lead over 2nd place runner of Wells.
As we see Merrick on the outside, really trying to use that outside momentum, just pulls away from him, and now it's starting to look at to get to Ellie Drummond.
And Drummond's doing a great job for the 29, a little bit lower than you'd like, and that's why we're seeing Merrick Watchorn close in this gap. Again, Elliott Drummond, fastest during practice, got the pole award, but it's the race pace where Merrick Watchorn always comes in the clutch. That's why he's a 6-time winner this season. Trying to carry this momentum again, going through turns 3. Where's turn 4? There isn't. This is the tricky triangle at Pocono, and Elliott Drummond working that rear end. He's trying to carry every amount of speed, and it might be hurting him as we're seeing the snaking action starting to come out here. The action of going low and then high and then low again, trying to break the draft. Didn't work out. Merrick Watchorn to the inside, trying to make it through turns 1. Here comes the exit though, where Drummond has that advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you really want to break the draft so they don't suck up to you to give them a chance at a potential overtake on you. But I do like how he's kept to the outside because the outside in turn 1, you can carry a lot of speed and potentially you'll really just battle that guy and just keep your position.
And you also got to remember, like you touched on right when we started qualifying, the bump into turn 1 could be disastrous for these drivers. They hit at the wrong spot, but side by side, Watchhorn trying to get some speed and momentum, not able to, but if he can at least keep it equal, he will do so. Here comes that draft on the front stretch, snaking across the line, and now going to be going into turn number 1. And it's going to be seeing Elliott Drummond directly
Oh!
behind. Issues. That's going to be vining and hard into the wall. Slow, staying straight is the 31. We stay green. As for that of, well, Waylon Vining, hates to see that type of an incident for himself. Hard contact for the 31, but luckily no required damage. But for the lead, Merrick Watchhorn trying the outside again. Oh, Watchhorn's almost got this. A lot better on the exit there of turn 2, but they keep it equal down into turn number 3, and this is where we've seen the advantage of Elliott on the outside. It's been flip-flop, though, where Merrick Watchhorn's going to be on the outer groove. Can he get the run? We continue to stay side by side, and Wells given a little bit of advantage on the draft to the outer groove, but Merrick Watchhorn, like that, takes the lead here at Pocono on lap that of number 9. Still got 37 more laps to try to carry this speed, but certainly the 91 looks good. But Elliott Drummond's not giving up for himself.
Absolutely. Like you just got to give it to Elliott Wells too. He's just sitting there just waiting patiently for really these guys to potentially make a mistake, and he'll jump all over that.
Yeah, I mean, with the side-by-side racing, Wells, that last time by was 1/10 faster, but I think this is going to be a good kind of look at what speed Watchhorn wants to throw down, especially with finally being clear from Elliott Drummond. But I'm curious, Matt, tires-wise, how easy is it to burn off these tires, or is that really a factor to watch out for here at Pocono?
It can really be an issue too. It really depends on how much brake are you using. If you're trail braking through the corner, you're going to save your right front a lot better than everyone else who is really potentially using the right front to slow the car down. But if you can knock that rear brake just a little bit more and be able to trail brake through the corner, help the car rotate, it's going to save your right front a lot, which is going to make a huge difference here at Pocono.
And right now, for a lot of the drivers, I think we're starting to see some decide to really back off on their overall pace, and that's 6th on back, really backing off. And I think one, because of the incident that we saw from Vining and that of Ryan Mitchell. Mitchell's really starting to falter back, looking a little bit slow for the 24. But I think we're starting to see drivers really think about fuel mileage saving from this middle of the pack. 6th on back, really slow. It's Riley, that of Morbello, going to be in 5th place for the 52. He's doing a great job because of the fact that he came into pit road during our first yellow and has been very aggressive on taking off, currently trying to catch up to Brennan Gregg, who's going to be 1.7 seconds off of our front 3 that are just gone, pulling away. And right now, that of Wells starting to lose touch to our leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. With Riley pitting, if he did take tires, he essentially has 4 laps fresher tires than everybody else, is going to be a huge difference. And also with him, sorry to cut you off too, but with him also pitting, that also puts him in a way better fuel position than the guys in front of him.
Yeah, I was curious on that, and that's the reason why we're seeing Riley really push forward. Looking at his pit stop, did not come in for tires, was the 52. And I think that's exactly why he might be pushing here, Matt, is the fact that he topped off on fuel.
Yeah, like right now too, if I'm Elliott, I'm just sitting behind Merrick. Just let him burn up his fuel a little bit more. Potentially, if it comes to that point where he might have to save a little bit in that second run, it could pay huge dividends for Elliott.
Update for drivers further on back. Sam Brochu has reconnected back into the server. Currently 6 laps down is the 25. As other drivers in the field keeping it close is going to be everyone from 11th on back, really on top of one another. Our leaders, one of the closest battles on track, but here's a little bit of side-by-side racing. That is going to be Ryan Hyatt as well as Waylon Vining. And remember, the 31 of Vining on the outside was one of our drivers that we saw get into one another. I believe he got into that of Ryan Mitchell, and then got hard into the outside wall as well. And the 31 just has been struggling ever since, getting himself re-centered, and he's got a lot of rear end damage. I think that's why the 31 is losing so much ground compared to the rest of the field.
Absolutely. It's just like a super speedway where you get any little bit of damage, like if you've seen at Daytona, Talladega, if you just get that smallest little bit, it just just hurts your top end speed so much. And it just really just is like carrying a parachute behind you.
I mean, that parachute's not going to be helping Vining at all. He's going to need a yellow. And speaking of needing a yellow, that's Blake Sasser in the 23, still 1 lap down, but in that lucky dog spot if we do get a yellow. But 33 laps left in this race, 13 down, and we're inching closer and closer to what should be the one pit stop and that money stop of the evening if these drivers can make it to that 23 to 24 marker on their fuel. That's if we stay green. They need to get to that point, as here's the battle and difference going on for that 7th place here, Matt.
Yeah. It's funny to watch these guys. They're almost kind of running similar lines, very, very close, but you get to see Michael just pulling away right now.
That 007 of Michael doing a great job. Debut race for the 007. Don't see very few triple-digit numbers coming into most leagues unless someone's taking the number that you wanted. It looks like for, might be just a James Bond fan for that of Michael's. Currently in 7th place for the 007, but he's starting to get pressured, and here they come. It's going to be the 42 of Chris Bredin, that of Bryden Baker, going to be trying to do his best, and as well Patrick Hernandez, who's trying to come back, had to use his faster pair, and really has been trying to find a way to get back up front. Qualified 8th, currently 8th, makes the pass on Michaels, and Michaels going backwards for the 007. Issues there for turn 2.
Yeah, it almost looked like Michael Petition could have hit that bump in turn 1, and he just washed up with it, which allowed Chris to get that run on him and get him down the backstretch.
And it's going to be him in the pit road.
Kind of an early stop. I was actually kind of surprised, but maybe he's thinking it is a 2-stop race, and he's going to just cut it into thirds.
Looking at right now the pace for our leaders, they're running about that of 8 to 7/10 off of their fastest times. So this does not look like you're going to be making up enough of that time for yourselves. With an interesting call from that of the 007, going to be going out there for himself. Again, Michael's going to be back at 16th, giving up all this time, tires, fuel, and he'll be back out there on track as some of the closest battles on track going to be for the lead. That's where we find Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond that have not been able to get away from one another. And then same equal distance was that battle for 7th we were just watching a lap ago. But for our leaders, same place. Really for our top 3, they've been keeping equal distance from where they were just that of 10 laps ago. They continue to stay that close to one another.
Yeah, the one good thing about Pocono is how big it is Chris is not going to lose laps. So if it cycles back to him, could potentially come out with the race lead here.
If he can gain all that time, though, that's going to be the key for the 007 machine, as still snaking for our leaders. And this is kind of interesting just to see. I mean, presuming Merrick Watchorn is thinking, if I just stay straight, Elliott's going to take that momentum and take off. But it just seems like for Elliott Drummond, he feels pretty content just running behind the 91. And I don't think even if he had the run, he would decide to make the pass. I think if anything, just trying to pressure, cause the 91 to use a little bit more fuel than he would really need, as the draft is just keeping Drummond in this close proximity at the moment.
Absolutely. The one potential bad thing about snaking down to the bottom is you don't want that guy to get to your outside, especially this late in the run where tires are going to be that much more dependable. But as we see Elliott look into the bottom.
Elliott trying to find that momentum. He'll dive it down low into turn number 1, trying to get clear. Won't be able to. Merrick Watchorn battles right back, and this is going to be giving that of Wells behind them in the 25 another real breath of fresh air and a resurgence potentially for the 57 if he can catch up to these drivers battling for the lead. It's Watchorn, Drummond, contact just slightly, a little bit of rubbing out of turn number 2, and it's Watchorn taking the lead right on back on the exit.
Yes, it seems like he tried to pinch Ellie down there just a little bit, and Ellie just washed up just a little bit, but that was really hard, clean racing there.
And a little bit of updates for drivers further on back. Ryan Mitchell deciding to come into pit road, who was damaged again with the contact between himself and Vining. Issues coming into pit road, caught speeding, was the 24. Going a lap down right now is Ryan Mitchell's. You hate to see that for a driver that was hoping for a good run after the poor last couple of weeks he's had.
Absolutely. He had a good, qualifying, which had him starting up there at the front, but it's just unfortunate.
And now going to be taking off. And the next question for our leaders, who decides to come into pit road, especially those that are in the top 5, as 5th place runner, that of Brendan Gregg, going to be 3.5 seconds off. If Greg decides to come into pit road, our leaders still only about that of 5/10 off. I mean, that last lap, they were flying, excuse me, going to be just that about 8, about a second and a half off of their fastest lap. So there's a lot of time to be gained if you come into pit road early, but you also got to make sure that you make it to the halfway marker so you know you're good on fuel. And I think that's where everyone is waiting, knowing that we're now within a 4 to 5 lap window of when we're expecting these drivers coming to pit road.
Absolutely. One thing I'm really like keeping a close eye on too is that interval, because we saw Michael, the 007, coming to pit road, and the total pit lane time for him was 42.5, and that was with a full stop. So if he can get his his delta to lower than 42, he could potentially cycle out to the lead and potentially with a late race caution put himself in a very good spot.
Right now, Michaels is going to be now 43.8 seconds off. And contact for our leaders. Drummond giving a little bit of a push and a rub there and rattling the cage of Watchhorn. And Watchhorn says, you know what? Take the lead. I don't want it. Pit road is where he's headed with 19 laps into this race coming to lap 20.
Yeah, this is where when Elliott was behind him, potentially saving fuel, could he last, go at least another lap or two and potentially make this into one stop? Where I think Merrick has kind of locked himself into the two stop and hoping for a late race caution.
You do 2 more laps, get to lap 22, coming to lap 23. That is the prime position that you want to be for Elliott Drummond. And then you also got to think of Ellis Wells back at the 57, who's been about a lap off. I mean, about a second off from our leaders. Just that little bit of a lick of the draft. How much has that been helping the 57 on fuel? And then the driver in the most prime position, that is going to be Riley Marabello. But for Marabello, the question is for all these drivers that are going to be trying to surge out to get to the halfway marker, how much of a lead will Merrick Watchhorn have as he's back out on track for the 91? And how fast will he be with fresh tires, or how aggressive will he be with knowing there's 29 laps to go into pit road? Jacob Elkins hits it for himself, and don't get caught speeding, as we saw that of Ryan Mitchell's do earlier.
And it is so tough to get down to the speed limit line when you come off of turn 3, because it's almost kind of like a blind exit of 3, because you're not really sure where the cone is, and it catches up to you very quickly.
And Waylon Vining comes immediately up in front of our leader, which pulls the draft of Elliott Drummond up to close to that outside wall. Big scare as Drummond is trying to talk into the 931. Get out of the way. I'm the leader. But that of Vining, fresher tires, keeping him in front of our leader. But that's got to be frustrating for Drummond. But at the same time, could be a little bit helpful to utilize this draft to try to stretch it out just a little bit further.
And so as we see him start to dive in there, as we see Ellis now going too.
Wells coming in with that steam. Drummond, Wells gets spun into the inside wall. Luckily keeps it off the wall. But all that gain from trying to be aggressive into the pit road entry, costly for the 57. And an opportunity to win this race could be over. Going to need a yellow to get right back into this race. Now gifting the lead to that of Marabello in that of the 52. Riley hoping he could continue to pull away for a couple of more laps now inside of that zone to make it to the halfway marker. If we can go about 2 more laps, will be for sure good. Is that of the 52 on fuel. The rest of the drivers, though, questioning, can we even make it? As Wells, looking on pit road, overshoots its pit box. When it rains, it pours. Wells going to be losing over that of 8 to potentially 10 seconds over our leaders and the rest of the field.
Absolutely. That has been kind of the tail of the tape as some of these races, as you can, obviously you cannot win it in the pit, but you can definitely lose it in the pit lane.
That's where we've seen a lot of these struggles as the 52, Riley, continues to stay out on track. Same for that of Patrick Hernandez and for that of Hyatt, as into pit road is going to be Greg and that of Bryden Baker making their pit stops. Into pit road also is going to be the 10 of Carroll, and it's going to be leaving us with just the 4 drivers on track. That all came into pit road under our first pit stop, trying to stretch it out a couple of more laps. And gotta say, for that of John Bualda, certainly a little bit interesting to see from the 52 and the 71.
Almost looked like the 52 was trying to stay in his draft and maybe potentially save a little bit more, but as we see him now dive to the inside to get the pass done.
I mean, when we're this late into a run, Matt, I mean, how much are you truly saving when you're closing in on lap traffic or other drivers when you're only 2 to 3 laps away from expecting to go into pit road?
You really, if you can just stretch it out just that little bit more, if you can get one more lap out of out of it, it'd be huge. Especially here at Pocono, where you're not really going to lose a whole lot of time by stretching out like one lap.
Well, update for that of the 007 of Michaels, 8th place currently for themselves. Has been a net gain, technically of about 8 seconds for the 007. Interesting to see how well he's been running, as right now for our leaders, they continue for that of Riley having the lap car, up that of John Buwalda in the 71, working with him. Further back, Patrick Hernandez going to be 3.5 seconds back. He's going to be all on his lonesome, with Ryan Hyatt going to be also by his own for the 75. And for the 75, going to be having that of Brandon Carroll working along. As into pit road's going to be our leader. Should be the money stop for the 52.
And so did Patrick Hernandez as well. And really seems like those three that pitted during the first caution are now coming in all together.
Now it's a question for the 64 of Mark Welber, because he came in at the same time and going to decide to stretch it out another lap for the 64, who's been running about 2 seconds off the pace. So this doesn't really surprise me with how slow they've been, that they've got a little bit of extra fuel to go an extra lap. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us here on the Blitz Racing Network. This is halfway of round number 13 at the Pocono Mountains, 112 for the Twigi iRacing Series. This is the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Matt Dyer. Also running productions is Matt Dyer, doing a little bit of double duty as the driver's on track. It's going to be Merrick Watchhorn. Should be taking the lead once we see the 64, Mark Welber, take that lead position. We've had one yellow here this evening. Another contact after that yellow that did not bring out a caution between that of Vining and also Ryan Mitchell's. As the 64 hits pit road, it's time for the game. Who has the better tires, and can they catch up the gap between Merrick Watchhorn and Elliott Drummond? 2.7 seconds back, and Matt, that is a 3-lap advantage going to Drummond.
Yeah, I really, I mean, you kind of expected Merrick to get that, extend the lead, but it's going to be interesting to see really what his strategy is going to be. Do you go as hard as you can right now and then pit when they've all like ran their tires through the mud essentially and just trying to run them down, or is he going to try to extend it and possibly even make it last? But based on the lap times, I think he's hoping for a two-stop.
And also, another driver I'm going to keep my eyes on to watch out for. That's going to be that of Riley Marabella, be of this 52. Going to be having 6-lap advantage over Merrick Watchhorn and going to be 9.5 seconds back. Can the 52 find a lot of extra speed with having a 6-lap advantage over Merrick Watchhorn? As keep our eyes on the Delta. What will it be like as we are past halfway, coming to 19 laps to go? And Merrick Watchhorn, our leader, currently by 2.5 seconds. Can Merrick get his 7th win of the season? Or will we see Elliott Drummond finally get that first win that's been irking him for this last couple of races? The 29 certainly has been quick, comes in 6th in points, and has had that of a total of 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s out of the 5 races that he's ran. So top 10 finishes have been there, and so have the top 5s. But for this 29, certainly needs a lot more ground. But for Merrick Watchhorn, it has been almost perfection for most of this season for himself, except for the few blips on coming into pit road. And usually if Merrick doesn't make a mistake under pit road, the win is almost solidified, it seems like, after that marker.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been almost essentially picture perfect all season. I mean, like once he broke the curse of his 4-win like lock chain that he was so excited to break when he got his 5th win, and this has been on a tear like ever since.
I mean, that is one of those things where, that mental block. Some of these drivers, they run so many different leagues, and some drivers, they feel like they could win championships everywhere else. And then there's just one series that they struggle at. There's others where they'll be struggling everywhere else. And there's one league where they just dominate. And for Merrick Watchorn, seeing him succeed in a lot of other leagues, but that blockage of only 4 wins for per one season at those leagues, finally able to break it. What a one of those amazing moments to see as drivers over the radio starting to make the call. Will we see a yellow with 18 laps to go for Merrick Watchorn? I'd imagine he doesn't want to see a yellow unless he starts to see that 29 get a little bit too close to his back bumper.
Yeah, I think the one person that really does not want any type of cautions is going to be Riley. But right now, I'm looking at the lap times, and Riley is essentially running the same lap times, if not maybe a tad bit quicker than the leaders. He's not going to run him down, but he's really hoping that they are going to have to make their second pit stop.
Net gain certainly there for Riley, who's up 13 positions, qualified 17th, and actually didn't even put a qualifying time down. One of two drivers that did not qualify was this 52. Has done a great job moving forward. Went with the strategy, pitting under our first yellow, and then decided to stretch it out the furthest of everyone else, and now comes away in 4th place, trying to get the top 5 for a debut race. I mean, not a debut race, but for a great race for Riley here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like whenever you make, your first race in the league, you kind of want to impress people and say, I am here and I'm hopefully here to stay. So it's definitely a good showing from him.
It certainly is. Always trying to impress, and for a lot of these drivers, that's what they go for each and every week. It's how can I look a little bit cleaner, get a little bit faster, and how can I show my speed around everyone else around me. I think for a couple of these drivers, though, some were hoping to shine a little bit brighter than others, but there's this pack. If we're going to see a yellow, it could be around this group that we see here on screen. That's going to be led by 6th place runner, that of Michael, and then he's also going to have Ellis Wells, who we saw have major issues coming into pit road spinning, then missing their pit box, went from 3rd all the way back to 7th, and now pressured by Ryan Hyatt as well as many others all in this pack.
Yeah, that's the type of racing that a lot. Ooh, potentially 3 wide.
3 wide, who's going to survive? And that's going to be also potentially 4 wide as Hyatt's going to back out of it. And that's the lap car of Blake Sasser, who was caught up in that first lap, that first incident in yellow. 23 really forcing the issue, which is surprising to see for a driver that's 1 lap down and not really pressured at the moment to lose that lucky duck position. Just deciding, you know what, I want to leave this pack. I'm tired of following.
Yeah, it's almost like he had nothing really to lose. You're just throwing it in there, but yeah, that was a very close call there.
Very close, very dangerous, and a scare to us as we take a quick breather and save our breaths. Matt, I'm watching the telemetry of our leaders. At one moment, Elliott Drummond was 2.5 seconds back. In a blink of an eye, it's less than a second. It's 0.7 seconds difference now between our leaders at the moment.
Absolutely, like that last lap between Merrick and Elliott. Like even before this one, it was 7/10 of a second, and now this last time back around, it was 4/10. So he's gained 1.4 in the last 2 laps.
As we take a look at the gap between these drivers, it continues to shrink. Merrick Watchorn, our leader, pitted that of 13 laps ago. One of the first drivers really to try to come into pit road. Thought he could stretch out the lead and have enough time to hold it off. Doesn't matter. Caution flag waves. Wreck further back in the field. That's going to be the 10 machine of Brandon Carroll back in 15th, bringing out the yellow.
Oh, how unfortunate. I was really hoping it would have stayed green because it would have been a real exciting finish to see how these strategies would have played out. But
Oh
man,
boy. I'm going to have to go back and see what happened further in this race, because as we are getting ready for this replay, there's an opportunity, Matt, as you could call it. You call it your way. I think this might have been an intentional wreck by the 64.
ooh, that hmm,
I don't look good.
that Yeah, if I'm Riley, I am hunting for someone after the race because that was questionable.
That is probably one of the most questionable wrecks we've seen. And now we also got to keep eyes on it. Will there be a retaliation from the 10 on this wreck, or will they just keep themselves civil? But for Riley Marabella, Melabello was making the surge forward, had moved up to third, and was really coming in and trying to catch up, and it will not work out. And drivers now have to make that tough decision. Matt, do you come into pit road?
Yes. Definitive yes, because you have everyone has been out there for 7 or more laps, and tires are gonna be huge here, even though it's only 13 laps to go with how big of a racetrack it is, tires are gonna be huge, so I expect everyone to come in here and get fresh tires.
And this is go time coming to pit road. We talked about it under green flag pit stops. Can't win it under pit road, but you certainly can lose it. Do not get caught sliding through your box. As here they come into pit road. Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond, Marabello going to be involved in our top three. Then it's Jacob Elkins going to be in fourth. Patrick Hernandez has done a great recovery in fifth. Marabello's going to be the first into their pit box. Doesn't slide through. Watchhorn perfect into their box. Drummond perfect in, and everyone else. Issues for the 57 once again. Hate to see that of Wells. Pit road has not been his friend. Once again, going to be losing a little bit of time, but now here comes the charge coming out of pit road. Marabello's quick. He's going to be inside of Merrick Watchhorn. And that's a close race out of pit road. Watching to see if there was any speeding, and it will not be close enough, as Marabello not able to beat out what coming out of that group. Third out of those that came into pit road. But Matt, it's going to be Michaels with the perfect timing right before that yellow flag came out. It was actually Michaels coming into pit road under green flag racing. Had a little bit of an issue, and now is up front.
Sometimes, the cards just fold your way, he pitted early and he played his strategy to a T. Remember, he pitted on lap 15, which was the third mark. He came in on lap 30, 31, and now he's sitting in prime position right now.
Who can get this done? Oh my goodness. Amazing racing action here, ladies and gentlemen, at Pocono for the Pocono Mountains 112. Here for the Twiggy's iRacing Series. Race number 13 of the season. 4 more races left in the regular season before we get to playoffs, where top 10 drivers will make it into the chase, where the chase is a long one, Matt. I mean, these drivers going to have 3 rounds of 3 races each before we get down to our final 4 that will race at Atlanta. So we go from 10 run 3 races, we cut it down to 8 drivers for another 3 races, then we cut it down by another 2. We got 6 drivers that will battle it out for 3 races before we get to our final 4 that will race it out at Atlanta. And with the news today of the new Atlanta being placed in, I'm curious if they'll decide to use old Atlanta or new Atlanta for that championship race all the way back. That race is going to be
Oh,
on October
so
14th.
Hernandez has some contact while pacing.
Oh, drivers are not happy. Hernandez involved. That of Baker involved. Also going to be Ryan Hyatt involved. A couple of others. Just getting a little bit of scuff marks. That is not going to be helping those drivers in the middle of the field on back. As we take another replay at this, and Matt, just a weird situation for the 19. Just a lack of focus coming down into the entry of turn 1 while pacing.
Yeah, it just wasn't aware that there was a car below him, and it just did not look good.
It side swipes Wells and then destroys the front bumper of Hyatt and others. And Hyatt is upset over the radio, getting that for front end damage. And now the question of who's going to make it to the end, as well as Brendan Carroll who was wiped out by the 64, was removed by the admins here from the server because the 10 just would not stop yapping and yelling at the fact that he was wiped out. And so drama filling up the server here tonight. Well, for the Pocono Mountains 112, we're loving the action. Coming to 10 laps to go, and we know that this race isn't over just yet. Who knows how many more yellows we're going to be having, as it's going to be that of Michaels taking us to the green up front for the 007. But watch out for Merrick Watchford. Elliott, who's going to get the better launch into the corner as they're really fanning out further back, four wide, but up front, a little bit of side swiping going on for our front for that is second and third.
Yeah, this is where, the gloves come off and you really just got to push it. Right now, tires are not going to be an issue. It's 100% full sand for the rest of the way.
Who's going to make it forward? Merrick Watchorn going to have the cleanest run so far. Here comes also the 52 of Riley, who's going to get into the mix. Marabello is doing a great run. He squeezed up into that of Elliott Drummond, and Drummond's now boxed in for the 29. He'll finally get clear, and here he goes, diving it down low, trying to get by the 007 of Michaels.
Yeah, right now, if you're Merrick, you are loving the sight in your rearview mirror just to see them side by side.
I got to give impressive calls to these drivers because they're still yelling about the situation on that overpacing and on what brought out the yellow flag. And they are still running so hard. A lot of the yelling going on is going to be Sam Brochu that is hoping that he can get his laps back, but we're under green flag racing. It's not going to happen. Let it be for the 25, but Brochu not giving up over the radio. And if anything, this could help Drummond because it's Merrick Watchorn that has to keep on retaliating and commentating back to Sam Brochu. Matt, talking back and forth and getting frustrated with other drivers certainly could affect your driving if you're not careful.
Absolutely. That's just where you lose focus, and that's when you have the highest chance of making a mistake, especially here where it's three different corners. You cannot relax just that little bit because you could forget which corner you're in and make a huge mistake.
As the gap going to be a little bit under 4/10, currently between that and Merrick Watchorn, our leader, Elliott Drummond in second for the 29. Merrick Watchorn, he's got the most wins with 6, trying to get number 7 here at Pocono. But as we can see, still a lot of shuffling going on. Currently, our top 5, Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond, as well as Michael Dona, as well as going to be that of seeing Riley Marabello, and Jacob Elkins going to be your top 5 currently, as Riley going to be trying to make the pass on Michaels, the 007. He tried his best with staying out on just that of a lap older tires of Green Flag Racing, and it's just not sticking anymore, as Elkins now going to be trying to make the pass for the 9 for that 4th place position. As these drivers continue to stay green up front, the gap goes down by a 10th. We're starting to see a little bit of movement going on further back for that of 4th place, as well as this for 8th place, 9th, and 10th. As Waylon Vining, who has caught up with an issue with himself and that of Ryan Mitchell, continues to race on, but further up, issues. Elliott Drummond, problems on the straightaway coming to the turn 1. We talked about a lack of focus, runs right into the outside wall, heavy side damage, and the wrecking behind. Patrick Hernandez gets spun.
Some massive damage on the left side. I wonder if he got slid up into.
Was between himself and also Wells, and they made contact under pacing. And I believe, I don't think it was purposeful. It looked like he was trying to make it look accidental the best that you could. We gotta look at the handles of the 57. Did those hands come up? Because they were on the straightaway coming to turn 2 when the contact happened. I mean, it's so close. It could be called both. A little bit of drivers looking. I mean, it's a racing incident. But both trying to grab every bit. Could have been net code. Could have been a little bit of drivers picking and choosing where they want to be, as we're right on board with 57 of Ellis Wells on how this is going to go. Again, side by side at this point with Patrick Hernandez. And, well, I mean, it's a hard one to judge there, Matt.
Hey, it is. Like you don't want to give it up just yet, but also you want to be careful of really like how it was.
And
I think
also
if we
for a
just
lot
ride
of
on board right now with the car behind them, and it might give us like a better look at it.
this is going to be riding on board with a 23 machine. This is going to be Blake the Sasser. He's going to be riding behind and their lanes just a little bit up was 57.
Yeah, oh, it almost kind of looked like they both just kind of just came together at the same time. Just, just with how long these straights are, it's very hard to keep your car from slightly going back and forth.
Also a little bit of for these drivers got to be questioning on the fact of issues on how bumpy this track is. But the question I was about to throw out, do you come into pit road? And it's been answered. Half of the field says yes, the other half says no. And Merrick Watchorn, the driver up front, decides to stay out. The rest of the field of the fast contenders decide to come in. And this is huge for Elliott Drummond, who now can come in and use that fast repair to get the damage repaired for the 29.
Yeah, absolutely. You almost kind of you almost feel hopeless when you're in Merrick's position like that because if you come in, everyone stays out. But if you stay out just like this, everyone just comes in.
Always got to do the opposite. If you feel like one driver's just so much faster than you, you've got to go do something a little bit special. As out of pit road, I'm going to have to go back and see again, but I think Jacob Elkins deciding to go with 2 tires only for the 9, and that is exactly what he did. Track position for Elkins.
That could be huge potentially if he can get a very good start, especially with the guys behind him taking forward. If he can clear the guys up front, get some cars between him and them, it could be huge for him.
As 5 drivers deciding to stay out. That of the driver that had the lead by the time of the yellow, going to be Merrick Watchorn. Then you got that of the 007 of Michael, as well as going to be Waylon Vining, Chris, that of Brian Baker, and that of Brennan Gregg. Going to be your 5 drivers that decided to stay out on older tires. But here is Jacob Elkins. Started in 7th, been up to 3rd. But this could be a race-winning move, but it matters on how good of a turn 1 and 2 he can really get for this 9.
Absolutely. I think it was huge for Riley as well to beat Elliott out of the pit roads, even though they're going to be starting side by side. It, but you almost got to give Elliott the leg up because he will be starting on the outside and be able to take a full advantage of the outside going into turn 1.
Also starting to see a lot more drivers going to get back onto the lead lap. We started this race with 17 drivers. Then we saw Sam Brochu join in late after internet issues for the 25. And it looks like admins, recognizing this could be one of the last restarts of this race, giving waiver rounds to the 25. Sam Brochu might be able to get at least back to 1 lap down if he can wheel his way around this course. And also Ryan Mitchell's back on the lead lap. 16 drivers officially on the lead lap, but up front, it's going to be that of Merrick Watchorn, Michaels, that of Chris Bradensbaker, as well as Vining, Greg Elkins, Marabello, as well as Drummond, Wells, and Souser are going to be our top 10 waiting to get rolling here. And it's going to be 3 laps to go, Matt. This, if we get a quick yellow, we're going to overtime, but this race could be ending on this restart.
Yeah, well, one of the big things that you saw there going into turn 1 on with 1 to go is Merrick decided to choose the outside line, which is going to give him a lot better line through the turn 1, which could potentially give him a bigger gap to the rest of the field. So I think that would be, if he does end up winning, I think him choosing the outside here on the restart could be potentially the winning move for him.
And how big of a move are we going to be seeing from Elliott Drummond? Again, Elliott Drummond going to be back in 7th place. That's following directly in line with the 2-tire taker of Jacob Elkins, who's going to go even higher up through turns 1 and 1 just to get a better launch potentially, or make as many passes as possible. It's time to find out, how is the Pocono Mountains 112 going to finish here tonight? the Twigi iRacing series. We had drama, drivers running into one another during pacing, and now it's time to see our top 5 drivers deciding to be on older tires. Everyone else with 2 or more, and already 3 wide as the green flag is out. 3 laps to go here at Pocono. Oh boy, into turn number 1. Merrick Watchhorn are going to have a decent gap for himself. That of Elkin's going to be going extremely wide. A lot of drivers staying low. That of Wells gets the better launch for the 57. 4-tire advantage. It's going to be that of 52. Oh boy, Merrick Watchhorn already diving it down low. Is right on board with them, trying to break any type of the draft possible. It's going to be Riley Marabello, though. Freshest tires for the 52 inside, but only up to 4th. He's got to get rolling if he wants to be up front, and also he's got a train and a pack behind him. They're going 2, 3, almost 4 wide for that of 6th place, as it's going to be stuck in the middle is Elkins. Here comes others that are looking fast, but it's the 52 of Marabello that's going to have the best opportunity to go after Merrick Watchhorn, but the gap, 1.1 seconds. 2 laps to go, Matt, and this is time to see, will we see a yellow or will this stay green?
It's going to be too tough to call with how close these guys are really just trying to push the limit here with these cars in turn 1.
And driver is going to be having issues for themselves. Ryan Hyatt going to be spun around. Matt Brochu trying to scream out, throw a yellow, not going to be happening. Pass going to be made here for 3rd place. It's going to be seen that of Riley Marabello. 4 tires for that driver, and they do throw the yellow. Delayed yellow going to be thrown, and it's all because of complaining being made by that of Sam Brochu, and Brochu got what he wanted. Woo!
Things are getting spicy now, especially if you are Riley. You are loving this late caution because it was about to become like 1 to go. And you were running really just practically running out of time. And if you're going to be starting 4th, I mean, he essentially jumped up 4 spots there. And now he's in 4th. That puts him even closer to Merrick, which is going to be huge potential, huge race winning complications here.
Oh, Matt, the yellow came from that of Ryan Hyatt. It was an admin thrown yellow, and the only admin that's able to throw a yellow flag was going to be Merrick Watchhorn. And Watchhorn, he was hearing the screaming of Sam Brochu saying, throw the yellow, throw the yellow. He spun out. There's a wreck. Never had iRacing thrown it, but this is the incident that made Sam Brochu scream, throw a yellow, and what Merrick Watchhorn just with a stubborn feeling, didn't want to throw but had to. It's the 64 once again. Well, that's a racing deal coming out of the corner of a driver getting loose and one coming back up.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. You hate to see this really just play a huge impact on what the race could have been, but I mean that's racing.
Oh, well, we are now officially into overtime, ladies and gentlemen. Overtime rules. We are going to have 2 laps. Once we go green, if we go green, we make it to the white flag with that 1 lap to go. We race it to the end. That will be an official race. But if we go green and a yellow flag comes out on that first lap with 2 laps to go, we will then go into our second attempt. If that same situation happens of another yellow happening right when we go green, we'll go into attempt number 3. And if a yellow lap happens there, we will then be forced into ending the race under yellow. Only 3 attempts in total, but overtime is now here as the drivers are getting set and ready to get rolling. And now it's time for the questioning. Merrick Watchhorn, Nada Michaels, Braden Baker, can they hold off the 4 tires that are going to be surging behind them?
I think it's really just going to be too tough. Really, I think if the only person I think that can really hold off potentially Riley is going to be Merrick. Like Merrick has shown he has speed this whole race and has been up towards the front, but I think Riley might have just the pressure tires that just might be just too good to hold off.
Can he hold off all these drivers behind? Also, I think for Merrick Watchhorn, how big of a launch can he get for himself? That's really been the key for the 91. He got the pole. He's trying. I mean, he didn't get the pole for himself. He had to work his way to get up here through the field. But I've got to say, these restarts have all been all that of the 91.
Absolutely. I'm not sure like if they're using the restart zone here or if it's available, but I mean, you could kind of almost bait people to think you're about to go. I'm not sure where he's been launching in all of his restarts, but if people notice where you are starting to launch for the restart and they see you getting up to the point, they start to creep towards you. But if you could just delay it just that slight bit where they kind of let off the throttle to slow down a little bit and catch them off guard, that could be huge if for getting a good launch.
Eric Watchorn, that of the 007 of Michaels, that of the 42 of Chris Bradens Maker, as well as that of Riley Marabello. Waylon Vining going to be your top 5. Then behind them, we got Ellis Wells, Elliot Drummond, who's just been trapped. I mean, you got to be feeling bad for Drummond. Not been able to really get anything, as Vining's just going to be playing a little bit of peekaboo with pit entry, but he'll come back up as he's been doing for most of this time. But Waylon Vining, I mean, what a story for this driver, the 31. Young man's been trying his best to finish up front. He was caught up in an incident between himself and Ryan Mitchell back on that of lap number 8. Fell all the way down to 13th at one moment and now moved up to 5th place, trying to get his best finish possible. But he's got a lot of hungry wolves behind him with fresher tires.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of surprised that Elliott wasn't able to work his way through the field as good as Riley did, because I mean he was starting on the outside. He could potentially use turn one a little bit better, but it almost seems like he just got trapped there.
Well, he got trapped because of Jacob Elkins, who's now back in 9th behind Drummond. Those 2 tires backfired drastically. Didn't work out for that of Elkins, who's going to hope for a lot of saving for himself. But I'm curious for the drivers now. Good. I like this call from Eric Watchorn, picking the low lane, and this puts that of Michaels, the 007, right in front of that of Marabello. So Marabello's not getting the cleaner run and jump at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of just boxes him in up there at the top because he can't at the start shoot down to the bottom if he has like a better launch than the guy in front of him, and but it could potentially work out in his favor by using that outside line, but it's really going to determine how good of a launch Michael gets.
Well, we are in overtime. This is going to be attempt number 1. We've got 3 if needed. But let's see if we can get it done on this one go. Merrick Watchorn, that of Michaels, Bryden's Baker, all going to be on older tires than the rest of the field. Can they hold off? Or will they lose the battle? Green flags in the air. Already a little bit of shuffling from the 42 as they take off. And it's going to be in wide open go for that of Michaels, who continues to block in as they're going about 3, 4, almost 5 wide further back. But it's Merrick Watchorn already going to be having that of a good gap. They're spinning Michaels into Marabello as they're sliding, continue to stay straight. Yellow flag thrown as they're spinning around. And this resets everything, and Drummond's up to 2nd now as they're piling in out of the exit turn 1.
Wow, what a catastrophe. I that was tough to see what exactly happened, but it almost looked like I don't even know what to say about that one.
I mean, it was really watch out for Michaels here in the 007. Gonna come down right in front of Bryden's Baker. Gets the clip and then comes right up into Marabello, and then after a second contact gets spun around. That collects a lot more of other drivers and just came down right in front of another driver. And that's one of those things where if you're Bryden's Baker, you're holding your line, and came down wrecked himself, was going to be that of Michaels. And you hate to see that for a driver that was trying to be so risky, was trying to gain everything, just couldn't come down fast enough and put that block on and tossed around, get out of the way. Let's go racing for our second attempt at overtime.
Now you just got a feel for Riley, who had a really good shot there, but just didn't quite happen there.
Chris Bryden's Baker going to be 3rd on this restart potentially, as drivers take another look at it from a little bit of a further view. See that the 007 come down, come up right into Riley, and then further back, you're going to see that of Siegfried clipped in for the 60. Hard impact. Also picking up that of Ryan Mitchell's. And Joshua Siegfried, who we really haven't talked about all night long, already had used a fast repair engine blown. The 60 is done for the night. Going to finish 17th for themselves. As that of Riley Marabello going to be coming into pit road for that as well. Ryan Mitchell, also Joshua Buwalda Jr. coming in, as well as that of the 007 machine into pit road, as we are going into attempt number 2 of 3. Again, if we go into our third attempt of overtime, this race could end under yellow. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but it's a pretty likely situation with the way we've been seeing these drivers racing and the way that Pocono is on going through turns 1. We could see this race end under yellow, which puts Merrick Watchorn in the best situation because of these massive launches that he's had for himself. And after drivers getting resynced up where they're supposed to be, Elliott Drummond now going to be in third place. He's going to be on the inside, and Merrick's got to make the decision on where to place that of Baker.
Yeah, but I think if you're Merrick, you're kind of in a rough spot because you don't want to. Really, everyone behind you essentially has the fresher tires except for your Waylon Vining, but eh, you really just want to. I think if you're Merrick, you want to take the outside because Elliott has been your toughest competitor all race long, but it has to be also a little comeback from Ellis, who we saw during those green flags pit stops spin on coming into pit road.
Just coming back, the mental fortitude that these drivers have to put in, the never give up. This is what these drivers have to always fight for. And if you give up in the early portions of this race, you certainly can have some major issues. It's coming back. 50 laps have been ran as we're now choosing where to go. No surprise. Eric Watchorn going to take that outside lane. I had a feeling it was going to try to figure out how to stop that of Elliott Drummond from moving forward anymore.
Yeah, but I think that was really his only option. But I mean, you do have to think though, Ellis at the beginning of the race was keeping pace with both of them, so we know that high-power truck definitely has a lot of pace in it.
57, driver to watch out for. Going to be on that outside lane. How good of a launch will the 57 get here? Hasn't led a lap yet, but certainly has been in positions to do so. Had the mistake under green flag pit stops, like we noted on for most of this race. Spun out on entry, overshot the pit stalls multiple times here tonight. Has lost every bit of ground you could do besides just dumping the truck into the outside wall or inside wall. And now has an opportunity to try to strike. It's fresh tires against old, the front row, all drivers with a 17-lap with that of a 7-lap disadvantage over everyone else in the field. Who is gonna get it done? It's time to find out. Matt, if you had to make a decision, who are you going with here?
I think you still have to go with Merrick. And with this heat cycles that everyone has gone through so far, it has really kind of got the gap between the tires closer, but I think it's still going to be super tight. It's really like up in the air right now.
Up in the air, where to go? Where can you be? And for Sam Brochu, he's back on the lead lap for the 25 and also was gifted another helping serving as he got a black flag clear. As he probably really shouldn't have been given one, but we'll see where that 25 lies. There's a huge stack up for the inside. Merrick Watchorn's gone. Ellis Wells going to be able to push forward. They're 3 wide, 4 wide, almost 5 wide, battling for third place. They're scattering, they're piling, and this is not looking good for turn 1. They're trying to figure out where to slice and dice and put themselves, but it's Ellis Wells in second place. It's going to be 4/10 the difference. Who can catch up to Merrick Watchorn? It's Wells in the best position for himself. Freshest tires for the 57. He's got the draft, and he's closing in fast on Merrick Watchorn, and it's going to be that of Elliott Drummond. It's going to be in second. Comes the crossover move for the 29 into turn number 2. Little bit of bump. Watch out. Here they go through turn 2. The tunnel turn. They're squeezing. They're pushing, and it's Drummond going to be up to second.
It's going to be really close to see if Merrick can actually... Does he have a big enough gap to Drummond, or can Drummond use his fresher tires To put
Yellow flag strikes.
oh,
It's the two. Brendan Gray gonna be spun around. We almost got the white flag, and that would have turned this race official. But we need a second attempt, and this one, oh, the poor two machine got absolutely ran over. As it's going to be watching out on this replay. Watch out for for that of the 52 of Riley Mirabello. Again, he was caught up in the wreck, just got 4 fresh tires, a huge advantage. Going to be about that of 10 lap fresher tires, and just blast right through the two using, it's almost better to use 8 tires than just 4. And sorry to say, but for that of Greg, tossed around like a tosser. He's going to have to most likely come into pit road, use 4 set of tires. And this is going to be the interesting thing. These drivers were given 4 extra sets of tires in pit road. If you're further back, you could come into pit road. If you're that of Braden Baker, just come into pit road. You've got the oldest tires, but you're back here with other drivers that have already come to pit road. Use your set of tires. And also, if you got a fast repair, use it now, because this is your last start to go. No more restarts after this. This race is either ending under green flag conditions or under yellow. And Merrick Watchorn is in the catbird seat to go for a win. As that wreck, Matt, I mean, a little blatant, but certainly you hate to see that type of a wreck happen.
yeah, it's really unfortunate, but you as a guy with the fresher tires, you have to be aware that everyone around you is going to be a little bit slower. But yeah, it's almost kind of like a bang bang thing. But like you hate to see it.
Well, for that of Riley Marabella, gotta give credit to the 52. Came flying through this group, came into pit road, was back in that of, I believe, 11th place, now up to 7th. This 52, I mean, technically, if we can utilize both laps, we stay green, and we finish this race under green flag conditions, that 52 is still in a good spot to potentially drive through this field and try to go at least for a top 3 finish, potentially a win.
Yeah, I mean, like this look at Blake in the 23. That first caution, he was out. His motor blew up, and he was in pit road down a lap. Is now back on the lead lap in 3rd place. A great recovery drive.
You never give up here at Pocono, and usually a race that traditionally is around that of 60 to 80 laps is when the range most leagues choose for. Tonight, the official laps was supposed to be 45. We've had to use both overtime attempts, and a little bit of extra laps have been added on just to give these drivers an opportunity, but we're now in that striking zone. Everyone has come in, used those tires. They're going to see what they can get out of this race. Do want to give Chris, the 42 of Chris Bredens Baker has come into pit road, but for damaged reasons, and looks like we'll be in pit road for quite a while for the 42. That of Brendan Gregg, who was involved in that last wreck, did use their fast repair for the 2 truck and will be on fresher tires. We'll be back out on track. The freshest of tires is 52 of that of Riley Marabella. Also, Sam Brochu in 10th place came into this race, missed the start of this race because of internet issues. At 25 is in 10th position currently right now, Matt. And he's got fresh tires just like that of the 007 and the 52. They still have a good shot to go for a top 5 run if they can get through this field. And big credit for all the drivers sticking it out. Talking about sticking it out, got to give a big credit to everyone watching us here tonight on the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam Dyer. Doing double duty is Matt Dyer, running productions and commentating. That of Robert Anderson should be back next week for racing coverage here for the Twigi iRacing series, as the drivers will be heading to Darlington for 75 laps. We'll see how those drivers can handle the lady in black. But for tonight, the tricky triangle of Pocono, it has been tricky for some. It's been disastrous for others. We're down to just that of 14 drivers on the lead lap. We had 18 to start this race off. 17 took the grid, and then Sam Brochu came in late. But this is our last restart. No more after this. If we get a yellow flag before we get the white flag, this race ends under yellow. But if we get the white flag, Matt, the gloves are off. You can wreck the other driver. No yellow will come out, and you can try to win this race by taking someone out, using the bump and run, or what we would like to see, a little bit of clean passing.
I mean, if you look at the front end of Elliott right now, when he started towards the back, he does have some damage on the front end, so you could tell he's not afraid to use that bumper. So I would be careful if I was Merrick.
Also, Elliott's got a little bit of rear right end damage. That could be a parachute that could hold off the 29, but the fresher tires technically do go to that of Elliott Drummond and others. Who is willing to get aggressive? It's Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond, Blake Sasser, as well as that of Ellis Wells. Patrick Hernandez, your top five here for the Pocono Mountains 112. This is race number 13 of the season. We got 4 more races left in the regular season. Some are trying to go for their first win of the season. Like that of Merrick Watchorn, he's trying to go for his 7th win potentially here this season. Well, it's time to figure out who's getting it done. We're green here for the Pocono Mountain 112. It's all about getting to the white flag. If we don't, we get a yellow before that. This race is done under yellow. They're already getting scrappy. Watch out for the 52. He's going to dive bomb it down. We're going 3 wide and down into turn number 1, but it's Merrick Watchorn with the lead by 2/10 off the exit of turn 1. It's on, Matt, on who's going to get this win.
Yeah, if you're Elliott right now, he's doing exactly what he needs to. He needs to stay in that draft to get the air away from his front end so he can draft up next to him and really just try to take advantage of his tires here going into 2.
It's the closest that Elliott Drummond's been all race long in the last 20 laps. Now going to have an opportunity to go for the win. They're wrecking behind. It's going to be that of Michaels, and it's Merrick Watchorn getting the win. And Elliott Drummond was about a car length off from getting the win, but this race is done. Merrick Watchorn gets the win, and we end the race under yellow. And it all came crashing down, backed by that of the 007. Heavy damage between himself and also going to be the 25 of Sambroshu and many others going to be involved with this wreck as we take a quick replay of how this all went down. And drivers were being aggressive with the freshest of tires further on back, and it's going to be a huge bump from Michaels into Sambroshu that gets the 25 loose, and then the 25 finishes off the 00, and from there on out, other drivers also further back. 71 of that of Buwalda spins out and wrecking, and that yellow going to be enabling Merrick Watchorn to get the win. And Matt, I mean, this is certainly not the way we were hoping for this race to end, but we utilized all 3 overtime attempts, and this wreck, the reason why this race will end under yellow, as this is going to be our last replay before taking a look at Merrick Watchorn coming across the line. But you just see there Sambroshu trying to hold on, overcorrects, gets into that of the 00, who gave that of Broshu the bump that got him loose, and a little bit of karma given back to that of Michaels. But a lot of changing, a lot of angry drivers out there, but it's Merrick Watchorn who will be getting the win here tonight. Coming across the line, he's done. The rest of the drivers have already crossed the line, so they're taking off. A lot of drivers frustrated after tonight, but this is going to be an interesting conversation. Talking with Merrick on the fact that he's going to be getting his 7th win this season. I would imagine sadness hearing from Elliott Drummond. And also, what a great run by that of Blake Sasser, who's going to be in that 23. Like you noted on, first caution of the day, blew up his engine and came back to finish 3rd.
Absolutely a solid drive. You have to feel for Elliott, who was really on pace to really try to get him going to turn 3, but I guess, staying out with Merrick, really ended up paying off for him there.
Having that track position, the ability to get the launch that is needed, worked out as that 91 continues to coast. And as Merrick Watchorn continues to coast. We'll take a look here at the unofficial results, because these might change up here tonight, as going to be Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond. Blake Sasser is going to be in 3rd place, with that of Ellis Wells coming away with the 4th place. Great recovery for both the 23 and the 57, with that of Riley Marabello and Patrick Hernandez able to come away for that of 5th and 6th. Wayland Vining as well as Sambroshu going to be 7th and 8th. Sambroshu 6 laps down at one moment, comes away 8th with that of Jacob Elkins in ninth. 10th goes to Ryan Wyatt, as well as Brandon Gregg and that of Mark Welber going to be coming away 11th and 12th. Pretty good for two drivers. That's some rough evenings for themselves. The last couple of rows for tonight going to be that of John, that of Boo Buwelda Jr., as well as that of Chris Bradens Baker, with that of Michaels going to be in the 007. Ryan Mitchell's and the two drivers that could not finish out tonight going to be Joshua, uh, that of Siegfried, as well as Brendan Carroll in the 10. 18 drivers racing tonight. Merrick Watchorn going to be the top runner. And as Merrick heads to pit road, we are going to step aside real quick. And when we come back, we'll talk to our top three drivers and get their thoughts on how tonight went. Expecting all three to be very interesting and completely different stories on how the night went. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Blitz Racing Network for the post-race show here tonight. We've got our top three drivers, and we're going to start off with third place runner of the 23 of Blake. Blake, congratulations on third place, and what a recovery. Both Matt and I were talking about this. You blowing up your engine on that first caution and coming back to finish third. How was the night for yourself, though?
Man, I as soon as I was at lap 2 or 3 when I got sent to the wall, I was like, "Oh, well, it was over." I was ready to just sit in the back, but man, we had good speed all night. I was able to drive through the field kind of for fun there when I was that lap down. I got lucky with that caution. Got the lucky dog back on the lead lap, and then me and my teammates kind of we worked with each other, tried to get up through the field, and we ended up getting second, third, and fourth there, which was pretty good. Yeah, we almost had a shot for the win, but that caution kind of messed us up. But it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, talking on these last restarts, you had to utilize all three green, white checkers. How was that for yourself trying to, strategize, knowing that the potential of utilizing both those laps, but also knowing this race could end under yellow?
Yeah, it was interesting. I know it's really easy to be aggressive here, especially on restarts going down into one. And if these things turned a little bit more RPM, it'd be a bit more fun. But man, I was trying to push and do whatever I could to just get my lane moving and stuff like that. But we did pretty good. We got lucky on some of the lanes, the people checking up and wrecking and all that. Got through that one wreck with I think the 007 car. But other than that, yeah, it was fun going through the field.
Well, it certainly was a pleasure to watch you carve your way through this field. But Blake, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, just shout out to Sam. He got me in this league just a couple days ago, really. I was looking for one to run and this one's pretty competitive and I'm having a blast here so far.
Well, a great run, and we hope to see you come back for more and more races. That's going to be the 23 of Blake. Congratulations on your third place run, and good luck going into Darlington next week.
Thank y'all.
As we had a third place, we bring up second place, which not expecting this one to be fun one just because of how heartbreaking it was. But we got Elliot Drummond up in the booth. Elliot, another one where it was so close yet so far, going for that win.
I guarantee you, 5 seconds, if there's 5 seconds left in time, I would have won this race.
I mean, we were
Yes.
saying it as well up in the booth. I mean, it was so close, but with how much you had to recover there, at one moment under that first green flag run, you fell back to almost ninth place. You had to work your way forward. How was it mentally, though, in those three attempts trying to get up to second?
Well, the first restart, also, I just want to thank my spawner teammates really trying to help me out there. Shout out to them. But the first restart, I don't remember exactly what happened. I started eighth. Really, we were just trying to make our way forward, and then that second caution came out. I only got to seventh, while I think Riley was up to fourth, and then obviously that wreck happened. On that restart, I made it four wide. If y'all didn't see that, but I made it four wide, and they started wrecking. So I started third on that next restart. This is the second green white checkered. I started third, and Waylon was before the line was beating my back bumper off, which I had the brakes like on, like I was on the brakes, and I was drilling the guy in front of me, the 42, I think it was. Apology to him. That's what happened. And then I didn't get a really great restart. I just had to make do with what I had. Got the second, and then the caution came out again for like the 18th millionth time. And then I found a restart. I think I was in prime position to win, but then I think I saw the replay. Sam dumped, I think, who was it, the seven? I don't know who he dumped, but after that, I just knew the race was over. But
Yeah,
I
that
knew, I knew if this race finished out, I think it was me winning this race, or it really could have gone either way. But good job to Merrick. I always enjoy racing him. When Sam's up there, I enjoy racing them. So I guess we'll get him next week at Darlington.
Yeah, Darlington's the next race. That last accident that came out, it was actually Sam being bumped by that of the the 007 machine, and then coming back after that bump and sliding, freaking out, making contact with the 007 that brought out the yellow. But Elliot, that end of the race, we knew you had the best opportunity to go for the win. We hate and see how heartbreaking it was how being so close again. We know that win is
Yeah,
right
this is
around the
the
corner
first
for
race my
you, and
parents were watching, so.
I mean, we know that that win is coming for you. It's right around the corner. We
Hey,
just hope that luck can
We got
come.
Watkins Glen coming up, and I've been known to be really good at the road courses, so who knows?
I can't wait to see how that's going to happen the next couple of weeks. But Elliot, before we let you go, the floor is open for any other shout outs you want to make.
Uh, Happy 4th of July to all watching. Hope you all have a great 4th of July. Last year, my family got blew up by some fireworks. Hopefully, it doesn't happen to y'all. But really, no other shout outs, then let's go to Darlington.
Lady in Black is the next track, and Elliot, we hope to see you succeed there. And congratulations on second place, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
Now it's going to be the 29 of Elliot Drummond. Again, so close to victory lane, but a driver that beat him out again for his 7th win of the season and 10th top 5 positioning and 11th top 10. The stats continue to climb. It's Merrick Watchhorn in the 91. Merrick, yeah, went with the gutsy call, decided to stay out. We then went into overtime a few times. We had utilized all 3 attempts, and you come away as the victor, but man, how many lucky moments can you be asking for, especially for tonight, with those cautions coming out perfectly on your side?
I won't lie, I think Lady Luck, I ran out. So it's kind of comical how we're going to, the Lady in Black next week, so I think I ran all my luck out at Pocono, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. As much as I appreciate getting my 7th win, Elliott deserved that win. I'm not gonna cap about it. I'm not gonna lie about it. I mean, he had fresher tires, better fuel. I was coming down to like having 5 laps of fuel left. I wasn't expecting to go these amount of laps, and I just had to keep clutching it, try to run the bottom, try to save as much fuel as I can. But I mean, it worked out for us, so we definitely used up all of my luck for I guess the rest of the season because I don't think I'm ever able to pull that off again. Being able to save tires and get the jump the way I did. So, I'm just happy about our finishing. Got to go back to the drawing board on a lot of different things and go forward, trying to see if we can, keep this momentum going. Like I said, I think I ran all my luck out um, for tonight.
I mean, for tonight, for sure. We've got 4 more races left in the regular season before we get to playoff racing action. But these next 4 races, all very unique that we're coming up to: Darlington, Watkins Glen, North Wilkesboro, and then Daytona, the wild card. How are you feeling about these next couple of races, and how do you feel like you could try to carry this winning momentum moving into the playoffs here in just about a month?
Honestly, the best thing I can do is just keep my head down and just focus on my race and focus on how I'm gonna stay out of trouble and go out there and perform. So, this Silverado Twiggy machine, we keep bringing it home week in and week out. So the truck was a little loose. I think the dynamic got the temperature all the way up to like 98 degrees at one point I saw. So the track was super duper loose, but yeah, we'll see going forward. But with all these different tracks, with Watkins Glen being a road course, I'm not really strong. It's not one of my strong suits. So we're gonna, hopefully we'll get a different winner there, and be exciting finish there. Darlington, I'm pretty decent at, but everyone makes mistakes at Darlington. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran or rookie or, you know, you're in between. You're gonna goof up there at some point during the race. Scratch that wall. Luckily, we got that fast pair, so that might save me during the race if I don't use it too early. Next thing, with Norks to Wilkesboro, that track is a short track, so tempers are already flying right now at Pocono. So we're just gonna be carrying all that going towards the final 10, and of course Daytona. That's just gonna be, like you said, the wild card race. So we'll see what happens going forward, and hopefully stay out of trouble.
Well, Merrick, congratulations again on your win. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shoutouts.
Yeah, I just want to thank the Watchware Innovations Group Incorporated, Innovation in Motion, the Quam Security Alliance, Capture the Occasion, CMS. And just want to thank my admins for working with me and trying to keep their head, try to keep better cool heads. Even I got a little hot tonight, but you just gotta re-rack them, restack them, and hopefully we can get the Sorrel machine Speaker Lane again.
Oh, I hope to see that as well, as that will be your winner tonight for the Pocono Mountains 112. It's Merrick Watchorn getting it done. Congratulations on the win here tonight, Merrick, and good luck going to Darlington next week.
Thanks, guys.
As we are finishing up our wind down here on the Blitz Racing Network, Matt, certainly an interesting night it was. We went from a lot of clean racing the last 3 or 4 races to now having to utilize all of our overtime attempts here tonight. And we didn't even get to finish under green. It finished under yellow, where Merrick Watchhorn just beating out Elliott Drummond. But man, what a night it was. And I got to say, when we get to that of North Wilkesboro in just about 3 weeks, that is going to be a barn burner on how drivers going to be, how angry they can get, or if there's going to be any payback to be served.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really it's going to come down to like, do you carry those frustrations onward from here? Because next week at Darlington, still a very narrow track as well. So I think tempers can even flare from that. So it is going to be pretty tight. But obviously tonight it was an absolute amazing race. A lot of close action, really from start to finish. There was some strategy involved a little bit, but I think Merrick just showed why he is the top of the field.
Merrick has done it again. 7th win of the season. And tonight at Pocono, we had to go a little bit overtime. We had to use an extra 12 more laps on top of our usual regulated 45 for tonight. But for Darlington next week, it is going to be a crazy 175 laps at that track that is going to be a handful. And like we heard from some of the drivers here tonight, a track that veterans and rookies all are going to find some trouble. The Lady in Black is certainly going to be a trouble spot for all these drivers. But for tonight, Matt, any of your final thoughts before we close it out here at Blitz Racing Network?
I'm still amazed. I really think Merrick is just going to continue just wiping the floor with everyone. He is really the guy to beat I really thought, Hernandez was going to do a little bit better tonight, but you got to look at some of the new guys that are coming in right now. They're really starting to put pressure on the guys who have been here for a while. So it's really fun to see the new guys really like starting to put on the show.
New drivers each and every week. The question is, who will be new next week and come in and try to have a spectacular run, just like what we saw from that of Blake Sassler, as well as Ellis Wells. Can't wait to find out how it's going to go. But for tonight, thank you for joining us on the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam Zyer. With me, you're doing a little bit of double duty, commentating and producing, is Matt Zyer. Next week, we should be having that of Robert Anderson back up in the booth with me, who will give us all the stats and averages and all the information that he can give us for his Darlington, the Lady in Black. It's going to be a handful. Who's going to get their Darlington stripe? We'll have to find out and see here on the Blitz Racing Network next week for the Twigi iRacing series for round number 14 of the season. 4 more races are left in the playoff until the playoffs come around. It is going to be a fun one, but for tonight, Merrick Watchorn, he found more of that luck, but can it carry forward? And will Elliott Drummond finally break the win? Because he's searching still for that first one, and we know it's right around the corner. Again, thank you for joining us here on the Blitz Racing Network. Have a great 4th of July. Can't wait to see you next week. And for tonight, congratulations to Merrick Watchorn, and have a great rest of your night, everybody.